So I just invite you to take a deep breath. I know we start with sort of all that business, right, which is important and we want to support it. And we're also here to connect. And so we just drop into that space where we do connect with the source of our being as us, in us, not outside of us. So we breathe into that space and we start our Sunday mornings by declaring together our creed. So I invite you to claim that with me now. Our God is love, our race is human, our faith is oneness. For the reading this morning, I've gone a little haywire. In honor of Mother's Day, my reading is from a book called Cassandra Speaks, When Women Are the Storytellers, The Human Story Changes, by Elizabeth Lesser. We did a book study with her probably a year ago, maybe. She wrote Broken Open. Some of you were part of that. So it's a little bit of a longer reading, but I think it's worth it, so stick with me here. Many scholars have gone back into the earliest translations of the book of Genesis and noted that in the original Hebrew text, the knowledge of good and evil meant the knowledge of how things work for human beings, here in the realm of time and death and birth. To be human often feels as if we arrived here without an instruction book, longing for direction, aware of our better angels, and at the same time vulnerable to our own ignorance and fear and greed. Isn't this the crux of human life and the lesson of every great teaching tale? That we are lost, but we can be found. That we suffer, but we can rise and grow wise. That if we take personal responsibility, we might grasp the knowledge of good and evil and chart a noble path home. But taking responsibility so as to grow wise is often not our first response to suffering. A more common knee-jerk reaction is to look for someone else to blame. Blame your partner for the problems in the marriage. Blame your boss for the problems at work. Blame a group of people from a different race, religion, nationality for the problems in the world. Blame the snake. Blame Eve for her woman and witchy ways. Blame Adam for being a sissy. Blame God, as Adam did, for making the woman in the first place. But in truth, there is no one to blame for the conundrum in which we find ourselves. Life is full of challenges. Humans are full of desires, and each one of us is faced with daily choices between good and evil. We long for Eden, the state of being where the opposites are united, where peaceful abiding is the norm. But what if the whole point of life is to find Eden within, and in doing so, we create heaven on earth? This is the awareness. This is what the awareness of good and evil really means. To recognize all the light and all the darkness in the world also dwells within your own heart. And instead of blaming the other, our task is to become like God's, self-aware and responsible for choosing goodness over evil. This is what Eve did. She woke up. She grew up. But somewhere along the way in the storytelling, blame set in. Someone had to take the blame for why life was so difficult and humans so vulnerable. Cue the fall. It's important to understand the significance of how our society's origin story is blazed. This is the best line. Let me redo it. It is important to understand the significance of how our society's origin story is based in blame. It's good to contemplate what our culture would be like if the first woman had not been branded as second born, first to sin. How would things be different if humankind's first big mistake wasn't to follow the lead of a woman, and if Eve's punishment hadn't been subservience to Adam? The author has a screensaver of Adam and Eve that she loves, and so she's reminded every time she turns on her computer. She says hello to the exiles, Adam and Eve, and says a little prayer for all of us, that we become less blameful of others, and more responsible for ourselves, for each other, and for the Eden that we protect.
Surely the presence of love is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of love is in this place.
We just take a breath in this space, knowing that the presence of love is in this place because we are in this place. And we are all expressions of divine love. And so we breathe into that awareness, releasing as much as possible the busyness of our minds, perhaps the worries, the grievances, the concerns. Just for this time, we release that into a greater sense of knowing who we are. That we are expressions of divine love. We know that what we focus on in consciousness grows in consciousness. And so we consciously focus our mind around this idea that I am an expression of divine love. I am. And we breathe into the fullness of that, into the safety of that, the security of that. Divine love holds all things, harmonizes all things together for good. And that is at the core of who and what we are. And so we consciously take time now to connect with the love that we are, releasing any resistance, any stories about how we might not be loving. That's not what we're releasing that. We are connecting with the higher truth of who we are, regardless of how we may act. And as we do that, it changes how we act. So we let how we are be, and we connect with that greater truth. I am divine love in expression. And we take time in this space, to recognize the work of the divine feminine as it is most frequently expressed through motherhood. And we recognize all the varieties of ways that that shows up. And we recognize the difficulty as well as the joy in that journey. And so, regardless of if you are literally a mother, you have within you that wisdom, that compassion of the divine feminine that expresses as unconditional love, compassion, and collaboration. We all have access to that. And so no matter if your need for nurture and love was fully met by your own mother, we know that you have the capacity to know that for yourself. And you have the capacity to hold your mother in that, however she was able to do it. We hold ourselves as we do our best as mothers in the fullness of that love. It's not always easy, but it's always true. And so as we connect with that power, that presence of divine love within us, working in and through our world, as us, we offer that out to our world. Centered in the truth of our being. We know that for all beings. All of creation is an expression of divine love. And so as we center in that power for ourselves, we send it out, acknowledging it for anyone who is hurting, who is lost, who is suffering, who is scared. May they feel the power of divine love. And we know, again, in that heart of divine love, the divine mother, if you will, there is room for it all. Holding the love, the pain. And as we do that, as we connect with that, we do our part in healing the world. And so for our ability to know that and to grow into that each and every day, we are grateful. And so it is.
I am one, simple and plain, no superpower, no famous name, but I stand tall, 'cause I believe something greater has come alive inside of me. And I found the Spirit stirring in my soul, deep in my soul. And I will give love, I will speak peace, all because of the love that's got a hold of me. So wide open, so amazing, it takes my breath away when it occurs to me. In a world where so many feel lost, I know God. I am one, but I'm not alone. When I'm with you, I am home. Side by side, we find hold of me. So wide open, so amazing, it takes my breath away when it occurs to me. In a world where so many feel lost, in a world where so many feel lost, in a world where so many feel lost, I know God. I know God.
Okay, you can all go home now. Thanks to Martha and Nick and Scott for, we have these amazing talents, and you can step right in and do your talent and they just make you sound right on. And you certainly have a talent. Oh, thank you. So I'll just start off by acknowledging there's a lot going on. Mic drop. And, it seems as though many of us are feeling it in waves and chunks. And as we discovered, I think it was Shireen said, yet one of us said I don't want to give it credit to the wrong person. At least we're not all caving at the same time, right? We hold each other up. And just know that when you feel like you're caving, you're not alone. As I was putting this together in that reading about Eve, I've always had an issue with that, of course. Really? You're going to blame us? Okay. But the power of that idea that culturally our origin story kind of begins with this blaming and shaming is permeated so much of where we find ourselves now. I mean, if we take that as our beginning, right? And we take it as we take it, and I feel like that is what is working through what's happening. And I couldn't help but notice that talking about the divine feminine, and here's the thing. The divine feminine, the divine masculine, those are all attributes that we all have. And really, ideally, they work best when they're balanced. And culturally, we've said, if you've got this genitalia, that's who you are. And if you've got that genitalia, you do more of that. I don't think it's really engendered. We've done that, right? And culturally, societally, we have supported and held up the masculine identity. This is not about anything bad about men. You've been harmed by it just as much. So please hear me when I say the work of the divine feminine, I think, is needed, and we need to make room for it for all of us. And it's not that you guys have messed it up. No, you've been drugged down with it. It's true. And so what seems to be occurring, I just remembered what I'm supposed to be talking about. Okay. I'll get to it. I'm going to get to it. I've got it right here in my notes. You know how I love my notes. No, I shouldn't have done that because I was on to something, wasn't I? When it occurs to me, yes. Thank you. That, as I was preparing this talk for Mother's Day, and to just acknowledge all that brings up, any holiday brings up a variety of things. Very few people say, everything to do with my mother was perfect. Right? And particularly as we become mothers, we go, she did the best she could, and now I see how hard it is. It's no joke. I don't think we should be able to do it until we've done some real hard self-work. But that's what propels us to do it, usually. But the variety of experiences that we have, CJ came up with this, expressing this historical celebration of Mother's Day by having you select men as well, a white rose in honor of your mother if she's no longer on this earthly plane, or a pink rose in celebration and honor of her if she still is. And so know, for those of you who are mothers who are like, why are these men wearing carnations? That, someone, regardless of whether you are an active mother, holding the space for your mother, for just, if nothing else, for bringing your soul into this earthly existence, it's important. And to hold the space for if that didn't go as perfectly, or even if there was damage in that, she did the best she could. And that the way, this humanity, this conundrum that Elizabeth talked about is challenging, and we're not always the best at dealing with what's going on. We project it. And we're seeing that all around us. So I think it's timely that we begin to focus on expressing more of this divine feminine that holds collaboration, that holds compassion, that holds the process of life as sacred. As we traverse what we are here experiencing, our intellect isn't going to do it. Our power isn't going to do it. Those things are still valuable, and if they're in service and in balance with this love and compassion and collaboration, you see there's so much more possible. And so I invite you all, as I move through this talk today, to consider from that lens, and I will continue to integrate the qualities of the divine feminine. But what I'm supposed to be talking about today is we're on week 2 of our series on the 5 principles, Unity's 5 basic principles, which really underline much of what we teach and make our approach unique, and probably the first 2 principles are the reason most of you are here and drawn to this teaching. I think that I should speak for myself. I statements. The first 2 principles are what brought me and kept me into this philosophy and growing to be where I am today. And so principle number 1 says that there is one power, one presence in the universe, God, the nature of which is good. So that is to say that there is no other at the level of, good, right? Good, that's all you can come up with? God is good. It seems like there should be a better word, a little more, I said in my blog, ice cream is good, but that doesn't really transform my life, although there was a time I was certain it might. Didn't go so well. So I take good to mean life-giving, life-affirming, creative, intelligent. And it is the source of all that is. That's the active, energetic source that is working in and through all of creation. And so, stretch it out. That is a statement to say that at that level of source, there is no superhuman entity competing for our souls, the devil, evil. Evil is an expression that we as humanity manifest by the misuse of our understanding of our creative power, in service, usually, of our own ego, which lives sort of in protection and fear, right? But when we're using our creative power in service of the truth of our being, and which is that we are all connected as expressions of this one source of love, of intelligence, we tend to use that creative power in a very different way. So, this first teaching that God is all is the foundation for our principle of oneness, which is really imbued in all that we teach. If God is all, then we are not separate from it. We are expressions of it, individually contained in this physical body, with the access to this intellect that often is limited. We don't even have the words sometimes, right, to really understand it. But it's important, and I hope, I watched some of it, but I'm going to tell you not all of it. I hope that Doris led you through that last week to be expanding your understanding of God. We know it's not a guy in the sky, punishing, rewarding, sleeping, causing all sorts of bad things sometimes. It's a creative energy, force, and intelligence at work. And it's the truth of who we are. And so we are not separate from it. How we know it is through our own awareness of it, connection with it. And you all know this. So likely then, the second step is that, the second principle is that we are all expressions of that divine intelligence, that divine life. We are not separate from it. We are expressions of it. And as expressions of the one, each of us are connected intimately with one another and with all of creation. And to some degree, that's what we're feeling. People that are running for their lives however many miles away in Ukraine, we feel that. The suffering of our planet, we're feeling that. And so the question always comes up then, wait a minute, God is good, we are good, why is all this crap happening? I could say that better. I'm sorry, it's Mother's Day. Oh, if my mother was here. Trisha Lynn. Again, because remember from Easter, it said, when will God save the people? That's up to us. We are the hands and feet and minds and mouths of God on earth. What we do next out of this body, I don't know. But if we want to know that now, it is ours to bring forward. It is ours to connect. It is ours to find the place within us where we blame ourselves or others. Just as an example. So it's important that we are aware of how we use our creative power. And I will read from a little bit more about evil. Well, here's the other thing. If you're reading this book, I love the reminder that in the Aramaic, evil, the word bisha, translates literally as immature or unripe. Hence the talk about evil fruit. Jesus, what? It's not ripe. What if we're ripening? It's really, cool. Let's do it. It's not that we are inherently sinful and wrong. We don't know who and what we are. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I came to try to show them, and they started worshiping me and fighting over me and using me to hurt people. Oops. They know not what they do. But we're learning. That's the beautiful part of humanity. Of all of creation, we have the ability to change. And that is what we're embarking on collectively. And it sucks sometimes. Because we don't know. What's it going to be? What do I have to give up? What do I have to protect? If we are all one and we are centered in that, and I know what you're going to say, well, they're not. Don't worry about them. We do it. Have you experienced that when you do that in your own life, when you're struggling with something and you finally connect? It's always like, why do we do that as a last resort? Let's start there, right? That's what Jesus demonstrated. The Father and I are one. He started everything he did with that, connecting with the truth of who he was, that was available in and to him. And so can you, he said. Do it. Quit following me around. Do it. It takes a level of courage and responsibility. And we're growing into that. So I will read what Ellen tells us about evil. What does she say? The theories about evil reflect the imperfection of human beings, but not the existence of a force of evil. If God is all that is, then there can be no other power. No devil, no Satan, no adversary doing battle for our souls or luring us to the dark side. If God is absolute good, then what we consider evil cannot be real or permanent. Understand it can be painful, but it stems from humans' misuse of spiritual law, not from any evil entity trying to overtake us. War, terrorism, crime, starvation, ignorance, and destructive competition for resources are human constructs based on fear, arrogance, and greed. I'm getting, some of you are like, yeah, say it again. I mean, it's still distressing because this is what we've done, and we've got to address it. But God isn't going to do it, and God didn't do it. We did it. But God is like, what do we want to harmonize? What do we want to create? We're seeing the limits of that? Okay, let's let that go. So we have to be aware of how we use our power. Are we using it in service of our insecurities and fears that stem from the limitations of our human ego? Or in the greater service of good that we know ourselves and each other to be? As we realize and integrate our oneness, that we are expressions of that source, and that we are connected all together, our need to protect and defend diminishes. But we have to know it, trust it, more than trusting or fighting or competing, or we've got to trust it more. That's a growth of faith. And we got to trust that we, not God, God through us can do it. Oh, I wish I had 3 hours. So Ellen tells us, and this is important, and I feel like we do a good job of this here. We've been talking, there's been so much, research and psychological study to sort of show the how our brains are wired to fight or flight. Right? How we just get triggered, and it literally, in the parenting class, it feels like you flipped your lid. It's like, don't parent from that. Get yourself reconnected. And until we even know that, and there are people whose very lives every day is a survival. So they are always in that. So those of us who aren't, we do our part to stay connected. We show up in that. And so we're learning the limitations of that, and we're learning how to circumvent it, breathing, taking a minute to relax our central nervous system. It's real. We need to know how to do that. And Ellen also points out that, and this is what I've tried to say, is that our ego, our human experience, is not in competition with our spiritual self, with our truth. We don't want to pit them against each other. Then we have more duality working out within us. We're integrating that. And what we're learning to do is to put our soul in charge of our ego, to connect first with this higher truth of who we are and what we are. And yeah, it does mean spending some time in contemplation of that, connecting with that, practicing that. I don't have time to meditate. You better make time. Because it flips all of what you do. And if I can't get still, keep trying. Connecting with the place within you. How many of you know, raise your hands, no matter how much work it might take, there is a place within you that knows exactly what I'm talking about. But what happens? All of this is so loud, so loud. Oh my God, all of this. We're going to have to deal with all of this. We're not saying we're denying all of this. But when we center into the allness of this creative life force that is wanting to experience itself as connection, as love, as joy, and we feel it also in our grief. What we love, we grieve. So whatever it takes, you know, I've joked about how much Netflix I've watched and ice cream I ate and wine I drank, all of these things to try to get it to stop. But instead of tuning out, tune in. And I know it's getting harder because of the frenetic energy, but we have it. Just take the time it takes to connect. We're going to do a little bit of that, by the way. I do, as we move forward together, now that we're technically in our new beginning, whatever that means, we're continuing to sort that out. I do hope to spend more time in our service in prayer and meditation, leading you through some techniques to do that and letting you spend some time in that. So get ready. And if you need a nap, have some more coffee before you come in. But don't be alarmed. I'm aware of the time, and I invite you to use that time constructively. So I have a whole nother talk to give next week, apparently, as I've not gotten anywhere near through this. This is what we will end with, I think. So this is part of our evolution, and we are part of it. We are here now at this time. For whatever reason, I don't even care what the reason is, what contract we made or what. We are here. We're the ones. We're here. And we are active participants in the evolution of consciousness and in the evolution, hopefully, of the human species. And time is of the essence. So we need to be real about that. So we do this as we're doing it by learning the ins and outs of our human aspects, our human limitations. And, you know, we're here to experience the physical world. So we need this body. We need our senses. We need to know when not to walk out into traffic. I mean, there's nothing wrong with our ego, but that's not who we are. And all of the compartmentalizing that it likes to do, and us and them, that's not who we are. So we connect with the truth of who we are first. All the time. We show up as that truth, regardless of how they're acting, what they're doing. It doesn't matter. Now, I know, and I'm not even going to say this, but yes, you do have to use some common sense sometimes if someone's going berserk with a weapon. Trish says, just stand up and be the one. Now, know the truth, but use common sense. Please hear me saying that. So we're gonna, you know, I really, here's what I was really, what? Oh, yeah, I can do it. Thank you. So I forgot I'm being filmed. There's a live audience here. Okay, yes. Stop rubbing your forehead and say some stuff. I was really recently brought had a greater awareness of my own grief and sadness around our planet, and how there's growing evidence that we really need to attend to this. And so many of us feel like it's just, what are we going to do? I mean, we've been composting, we've been recycling, right? We need to start holding bigger companies accountable for their practices. There's a whole bunch of things we can do. But what I was doing, what I was connected with, was I wasn't even connecting with it because it felt so enormous and it felt so painful. And until we actually do connect with it, we won't do anything about it. It'll seem like another person, another thing that someone else can handle and someone else caused. Who can we blame? Here we go, back to that. So I wanted to do a meditation where we just consciously connect with that. And I thought it timely for Mother's Day as we honor and reflect and hold our Mother Earth in our hearts, connecting with our appreciation for it. And to do that, I want to just read you a quick reading from, it was really from Tara Brach, who I love, who talked about Thich Nhat Hanh, who transitioned earlier this year, correct? Yes, Buddhist monk. Oh boy, where is it? And he had this term, interbeing, that really fits with what I want to talk about. And, okay, there we go, there it is. And this will lead us into our meditation where we hold that space. So she says of Thich Nhat Hanh that he was a true bodhisattva in the Buddhist tradition, that he was an awakened being. And that his work was to remove the separation between spirituality and activism, acting on behalf of all beings as a reflection of his spiritual truth and knowing. And he coined this term interbeing, teaching that we really can't heal our world or understand what we are if we don't understand interbeing, which is that our existence is entirely, intimately interdependent with every other living being. That every moment we are shaped by, influenced by, molded by, created by the lived experience of every other being. If you imagine a wave in the ocean and how it's entirely shaped by every other wave. The power of this is that if we realize interbeing, our hearts will naturally feel a sense of belonging and care for all life. And so, in particular to the earth, he said this, that change is possible only if there is a recognition that people and planet are ultimately one and the same. You carry Mother Earth within you. She is not outside of you. And so that's what we're going to connect with now. So I just invite you to take a deep breath. And I know at a cellular level you feel the truth of all that I've said, our connectedness, our interbeingness, our relationship with this Mother Earth that supplies the air we breathe, the water we drink. We can't hardly fathom it not being. And that's because we're one with it and because we love it. And it loves us. And so just breathing into your heart space, trusting that the heart of you, where that divine feminine expresses, can hold it all. What we love, we grieve. And so breathing into the fullness of your own heart, just bring to mind what you love about this natural world, what you appreciate. The water, the trees, the animals, the ecosystems, whatever it is feeling that deep love and appreciation. And centered in that love and appreciation, we consciously send it out. Knowing that life is consciousness, we send that love and appreciation out to Mother Earth. For your majesty, for your substance, for your beauty, for your vastness, for your intelligence. We appreciate you. And we connect with that idea, that truth that we hold you just as you hold us. And so we are grateful. And we make time moving forward to connect with that gratitude, with that grief, with that love. As we continue to awaken to what we are to do and to be as expressions of divine love, right here, right now. So from that place of gratitude and love, we move forward, open and receptive to that divine intelligence moving through us and as us, as we navigate the human existence that we're in. And we trust that God is all and we are expressing it. And we are being guided. And for this we give thanks. So it is. Just wiggle your fingers and rub your hands. Come back to this time and space. Thank you again for being here. This is the time in our service where we ask for your financial support for this ministry, for all that we do here. For those of you giving online, there are ways you can do that, showing on your screen. And many of you who are here do that automatically through PushPay, through our online giving platform, so thank you for that. Our ushers are coming through with offering bags to collect your checks and cash, and we know that as they're given in love, they go forth to do the work of love, which is what we are ultimately here to do. I want to remind you as well of our Pandemic Recovery Matching Fund that we have been blessed with sponsoring donors up to $35,000 to match dollar for dollar your giving above and beyond your normal offering to get us, to move us from surviving to thriving. We're ready to do that. I know you're ready to do that. And so if you would like to contribute to that, there is a fund on our online giving that you can select, the matching fund, or you can write that on your memo or your cash envelope that you'd like that donation, that additional donation to be matched, and we thank you for considering that. So together, whatever you're giving, and if you've already given, you can just hold your heart space as we bless our offerings with our, there we go, thank you, Al. Together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am thankful.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move mountains, and I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, when the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise you we'll bring the world to its feet and move mountains, bring it to its feet and move mountains, and I'll rise up high like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other, and we will rise, oh we will rise, oh we will rise, oh rise up in spite of the ache. We will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up high like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. Oh, for you, for you, for you, for you.
Oh, Desiree Gold, you don't know how hard it is to get them out of their seats. Look what you've done. I want to acknowledge, yes. I want to acknowledge Shireen, who is friends with Pastor Ken, who's the pastor at Trinity Methodist, who is taking you under his wing. He's managing you, and I see why. And I saw this little crappy video of you. I was like, oh, let's try that. And no offense, it was just a little phone video, right? And it's clear that we may not have you for long, because I'm guessing they're going to find you. But I'm happy to say you're coming back in July, and yeah, you have a real gift. You have a real gift, so thank you for sharing it with us today. And thank you all for being here, for rising up, and know that you'll do it 1,000 times. You can do it. We can do it together. So let's close with our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. As light, I illumine my world. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. As love, understanding, and compassion. I am the power of God. Sorry, you know it. For all. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. As presence, I stand in truth in every circumstance. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. We'll close with our closing song and a reminder that CJ has set up some fellowship, some muffins and such for you, so stick around if you're so able to. We'd love to talk to you more.